How to Rig an Election. Written by Nick Cheeseman and Brian Klaas. Introduction. The Illusion of Democracy. Across much of the world, leaders rise to power not by cancelling elections, but by perfecting them. Ballot papers are printed, polling stations open, international observers arrive, and yet the outcome is predetermined long before the first vote is cast. The spectacle remains, but the substance is hollow. The most effective autocrats understand that legitimacy is more valuable than fear. By preserving the appearance of choice, they pacify both citizens and foreign critics. The regime gains the glow of democracy without the risk of losing power. Every element, from campaign coverage to court rulings, is orchestrated to favor incumbents while keeping dissent technically legal. What makes this strategy powerful is its subtlety. The fraud rarely takes place on election day. It begins years earlier in the quiet redesign of institutions. The rules are rewritten, oversight bodies reshaped, and the playing field tilted so gradually that outrage never gathers momentum. The voter believes in the process, even as the process stops believing in the voter. This new form of electoral authoritarianism thrives on plausible deniability. When questioned, leaders point to ballots, debates, and international endorsements as proof of fairness. The more convincing the theatre, the harder it becomes to expose the script. The tragedy of modern democracy is not its overthrow, but its simulation. Chapter 1. Engineering advantage before the vote. The most effective rigging begins long before citizens line up to vote. The groundwork is bureaucratic. Boundary changes, voter registration laws, funding allocations, and candidate eligibility rules. Each adjustment appears technical, yet each shifts the balance of power. Manipulating electoral commissions is among the quietest tactics. Loyalists are appointed to bodies meant to safeguard neutrality, turning referees into players. Once captured, these institutions can decide disputes, interpret regulations, and certify results in ways that always favor the incumbent. Gerrymandering follows the same logic on a geographical scale. Districts are redrawn to cluster opposition voters in a few strongholds, while scattering supporters of the ruling party across many winnable seats. The lines on a map become invisible walls around representation. Money then seals the foundation. State resources fund ruling campaigns disguised as public programs. Opposition parties, deprived of comparable access, fight with words while their rivals campaign with infrastructure. By the time the first poster appears, the contest has already been mathematically compromised. Every element of pre-election manipulation operates in daylight, defended as efficiency or reform. No ballot is stuffed, no box stolen, yet the outcome is predetermined. By shifting the structure instead of the vote, power disguises control as competence. Chapter 2. Buying loyalty, selling fear. In many countries, politics is a marketplace where loyalty has a price. Voters are not coerced at gunpoint, but persuaded through patronage. Food, cash, or promises of employment appear like seasonal gifts, binding gratitude to the ballot. Vote buying replaces ideology with survival. These exchanges are effective because they exploit poverty and uncertainty. When the future feels unstable, immediate gain matters more than abstract rights. Politicians understand this instinctively, distributing favors through local brokers who know every household's need and allegiance. The transaction is quiet, personal, and hard to prove. Alongside inducement comes intimidation. Violence today is more selective than in past dictatorships, targeted, symbolic, designed to send a message without triggering international condemnation. An activist is arrested, a rally permit denied, a journalist threatened. Fear spreads faster than bullets. Citizens learn that opposition carries invisible costs, and many withdraw from politics altogether. Patronage and intimidation form the emotional core of modern rigging. Together, they create a sense of inevitability, gratitude to the powerful, and anxiety about the alternative. The ballot then becomes less a choice than a ritual of submission disguised as civic duty. Chapter 3: The Information Battlefield. Control of information has become the decisive front in 21st century rigging. The modern ruler does not silence the press, he floods it. Propaganda is no longer shouted from one channel, but whispered across thousands of screens. The goal is not to convince, but to confuse. State-aligned media blur truth and falsehood until distinctions lose meaning. Opposition claims are met with endless counterclaims, eroding trust in all sources. The citizen, overwhelmed by contradictions, retreats into apathy. When nothing seems reliable, manipulation no longer needs censorship. It thrives on fatigue. Social media amplifies this chaos. Armies of bots and trolls generate waves of anger, division, and distraction. Deepfakes and doctored images circulate faster than corrections can follow. The digital storm reshapes perception of reality itself, turning facts into opinions and opinions into weapons. Yet the manipulation is sophisticated. Instead of inventing ideology, it hijacks existing grievances, ethnic, religious, or regional, and magnifies them. Polarization becomes both shield and sword. It rallies the base and fragments the opposition. In this atmosphere, truth feels partisan and lies feel patriotic. When voters step into polling booths, many have already been guided by invisible hands. Their minds, not their ballots, have been rigged. Chapter 4: The Art of Election Day. By the time Election Day arrives, the grand deception is almost complete. The remaining tricks are operational, fine-tuning rather than foundation. These include turnout suppression, ballot box tampering, and creative counting. Suppressing turnout often requires no overt fraud. It can be achieved through bureaucratic obstacles. Polling stations opened late, ballots misprinted, IDs suddenly invalidated. Rural voters face long journeys to cast votes. Urban ones confront endless queues. Exhaustion does the rest. Direct manipulation, ballot stuffing or switching, still occurs, though less frequently. Cameras, observers, and citizen monitors have made blatant theft riskier. But technology has also provided new tools for subtle interference. Software errors that favor one side, unexplained server outages, vote tallies that mysteriously match pre-election forecasts. Observers themselves can be deceived. Many are steered toward model polling stations, choreographed to display fairness. Carefully briefed officials smile for photographs while irregularities unfold elsewhere. The spectacle reassures the world that democracy remains alive even as the count is quietly rewritten. By nightfall, results appear on television. Crowds celebrate or mourn, unaware that the real contest was settled long before the polls opened. The performance is over. The illusion complete. Chapter 5: The Theatre of Legitimacy. After the ballots are counted, the stage must be managed. Victory alone is not enough. It must look earned. Speeches of humility, gestures toward unity, and symbolic concessions maintain the illusion of democratic continuity. The loser may even be allowed a few seats or ministries, trophies of participation in a game already decided. International approval is carefully courted. Invited observers, given limited access and generous hospitality, issue cautious statements praising progress. Foreign governments, reluctant to jeopardize alliances, accept the verdict as good enough. The ritual of legitimacy is complete. Domestically, propaganda reframes skepticism as disloyalty. To question the process is to insult the nation. Patriotism becomes the weapon that guards deceit. This transformation of perception, from fraud to normalcy, is the true genius of the modern autocrat. Meanwhile, the cycle begins again. New reforms are introduced, new commissions appointed, new slogans coined. Each round of voting renews the illusion. Citizens participate not because they believe, but because they see no alternative. The ballot becomes both a symbol of hope and a tool of control. The tragedy lies not in the presence of elections, but in their perfection as performance. Chapter 6. The Fight to Defend the Vote. If manipulation can be learned, so can resistance. Defending elections begins with understanding how they are subverted. Vigilance must start early, in the dull months between campaigns when the rules are written and institutions reshaped. Transparency is the first line of defense. Open voter rolls, public audits, and independent election commissions make invisible manipulation harder. Sunlight, applied consistently, weakens the shadows where advantage grows. Technology can assist, but only when paired with trust. Electronic systems without verification invite digital tampering. Verified paper trails paired with public oversight reduce it. The key is redundancy. Multiple channels of accountability that force manipulators to take visible risks. Civil society provides the moral infrastructure. Journalists, watchdog groups, educators, and ordinary citizens create a culture of questioning. When enough people know how rigging works, the spectacle loses power. Knowledge itself becomes resistance. International partners play a supporting role. Long-term engagement matters more than short-term observation. Democracy cannot be defended by fly-in inspectors. It survives through consistent, local vigilance. The lesson is sobering, but not hopeless. The tools of democracy are also its armor. When citizens insist on transparency, rigging becomes costly and clumsy. The system bends toward accountability, not by accident, but by effort. Conclusion. The quiet death and possible rebirth of democracy. The modern coup wears a suit, not a uniform. It arrives through reforms, not tanks. Step by step, elections become rituals that validate power rather than challenge it. Citizens still vote, journalists still report, and observers still monitor. Yet the result is foreordained. Democracy fades not with violence, but with applause. The slow erosion of trust is the most dangerous consequence. When voters suspect every outcome is fixed, apathy replaces outrage. Cynicism becomes self-fulfilling. If nothing can change, why participate? The vacuum that follows is easily filled by strong men promising order. In this silence, the ideals of representation and accountability lose meaning. Yet the same machinery that enables manipulation can be turned toward reform. The transparency that exposes fraud can also rebuild faith. The institutions captured by rulers can, in time, be recaptured by citizens. The book's lasting message is not despair, but realism. Democracy is never given. It must be defended daily, at every level, in law, in technology, in culture. The choice remains between ritual and reality. Where citizens refuse to surrender the meaning of their vote, even the most sophisticated rigging falters. Democracy's survival depends not on perfection, but on persistence, the stubborn insistence that a ballot should count because a person does. Thanks for listening.
Did you enjoy this book summary? Got ideas on how we can make it even better? Drop us a quick note. We're always listening and learning from you.